IRA funerals in Belfast. 3 killed and dozens injured. Riots afterwards, despite appeals for calm. In Dublin, the Supreme Court rejects an appeal for abortion information. And reports of a coup attempt in Panama. Good evening. 3 people were killed and scores injured in a gun and grenade attack on the IRA funerals in Belfast today. Over a dozen are still in hospital tonight, 4 of them critically ill. Mr Haughey and other leaders have condemned the attack and appealed for calm. But riots have been reported in several parts of the north. Sinn Féin says there was collusion by the British Army, and the SDLP's Seamus Mallon has called for the banning of the UDA.
So far, no one's claimed responsibility for the attack. The 3 men killed have been named as Kevin Brady, Thomas McErleen and John Murray, all in their early 30s and from West Belfast. It happened at the motorway end of Milltown Cemetery near the Falls Road in Belfast. The graveyard was packed with mourners at the funerals of 3 IRA members shot by British soldiers in Gibraltar 10 days ago. A man mingling with the crowd tossed grenades and opened fire with a handgun. He was arrested after being beaten up by a section of the crowd. A 33-year-old man from East Belfast is still in RUC custody at the City Hospital.
The attack happened as the last of the coffins of the 3 IRA members was being buried at the Republican plot in the cemetery. Up to that point, the funerals looked like passing off peacefully. There had been no British Army or RUC presence along the route apart from 2 helicopters. A man in a blue anorak threw 2 grenades into the crowd, which exploded some 50 yards from where the relatives of the dead and the platform party were standing. Some eyewitnesses also claimed there was a second man involved in the attack who gave covering fire with a rifle, but made off after the first grenade was thrown. Mourners dived for cover among the graves as others appealed for calm. Amidst the confusion, the gunman then fired several shots towards the crowd. The gunman laughed and shouted as he launched his attack at the funeral, according to one of the men injured at the graveside. The gunman started to run towards the M1 motorway at the end of the cemetery. As sections of the crowd began to follow him, he threw more grenades and fired again.
I heard the shooting, and I said, my God, they're shooting over the coffins now. So I heard a lot of blasts then thrown, and this fella kept running down past my bus, and he turned around and fired straight at me and right through my windscreen. And I'm a lucky fella. I fell to the side, but it missed. And he kept running on ahead, and there was other people running after him then. And these 2 or 3 fellas did fall. They got shot in the head and the neck. And I was able to gather myself up and get the bus going and use it as an ambulance and took them to the hospital. As far as I know, those 2 fellas died since.
One group of mourners eventually caught up with the man on the motorway, and he was badly beaten. One eyewitness said he was trying to hijack cars to make his escape. A short time earlier, a white transit van, which it's believed was connected with the attack and had been seen parked in the area before the funeral, sped off along the M1 motorway towards town. The RUC arrived at the motorway and placed the gunman under arrest. He was taken to hospital for treatment. Confusion continued in the graveyard as those injured in the attack were put into black taxis, which had earlier taken part in the cortege, private cars and ambulances.
They were brought to the Royal Victoria Hospital nearby. After the most seriously injured were taken to theatre or to intensive care for emergency treatment, staff in the casualty department dealt with the rest and with anxious relatives.
The police cleared casualty, both the escalators up to level 3, and information will be conveyed to you.
Many had cuts and bruises and were badly shocked, but were not detained. An information telephone line was set up by police to deal with inquiries. At a news conference, Sinn Féin alleged the attackers must have known in advance there would be no security force present. Jerry Adams said it was Sinn Féin's assertion there was prior notice and collusion between the attackers and the security forces. The RUC rejected this claim as an outrageous lie, asking, what else would you expect from the IRA? They said they stayed away because the Catholic Church had told them it believed there would be no illegal acts. The SDLP had also urged them to stay away. Trouble flared on the streets in the afternoon. It was a familiar pattern. The hijackings and burnings took place on the Short Strand, the Lower Falls, Ardoyne and Old Park districts over a few hours. There were disturbances in Newry also, and tonight in Derry, several vehicles were hijacked in the Cregan and Bogside areas.
The Taoiseach has appealed to the people of the North to remain calm following the cemetery attack. Mr Haughey said the desecration of funeral ceremonies would appall all decent Irish men and women of every political belief. He said the anger arising from the savage attack should not lead to further violence. The British Prime Minister, Mrs Thatcher, said she was shocked and appalled by the killings. She is to make a statement in the House of Commons tomorrow.
The funerals were proceeding in a peaceful way and without violence until this insane and depraved attack took place. For some people, there will be the thought of revenge and retaliation. If that happens, this mad and awful cycle of killing and murder and violence will go on.
The killings were also condemned by the Fine Gael leader Mr Dukes, who said violence would never produce anything worthwhile for Northern Ireland. The leader of the Progressive Democrats, Des O'Malley, said the carnage showed how easy it would be for the entire community in the North to slip over the brink into full-scale sectarian conflict. The Labour Party leader Mr Spring said atrocities like this tear apart any possible hope there might be for peace and progress in Northern Ireland. The leader of the SDLP, Mr John Hume, said the Catholic community should show the same restraint in the face of this atrocity as was demonstrated by the Protestant community after Enniskillen. And the Church of Ireland Primate Dr Eames appealed to everyone to pull back and refrain from words and actions which could further erode the situation.
The Roman Catholic bishops meeting in Maynooth have expressed shock and revulsion at the attack. Their spokesman, Bishop Joseph Duffy of Clogher, appealed for calm.
We condemn this atrocity unequivocally. We appeal for calm in face of inflamed emotions and for Christian fortitude in this very dangerous situation. Every time the right to life is set aside, another serious wound is inflicted on our society. We can only repeat the Church's teaching on the evil of violence in all its forms. Tomorrow, the feast of St. Patrick has been set aside by the Catholic bishops of Ireland, England and Wales and Scotland as a day of special prayer for peace and reconciliation in Northern Ireland. We pray for an end to violence, which is the source of so much misery. We pray for a spirit of unity among all our people and for friendship and trust between the peoples of these islands.
In Washington, a group of civil rights activists led by Congressman Joseph Kennedy has protested at the British Embassy about the situation in the North, including today's killings in Belfast. From Washington, Jim Dougal reports.
Congressman Kennedy, Martin Luther King III and other veteran civil rights activists arrived at the British Embassy to hand in their letter. They put their views to the Ambassador, Sir Anthony Eklund. They said the security forces in the North were taking on the character of death squads in Central America with the enthusiastic support of the British government. They demanded action on fair employment, the Stalker-Sampson report and the Diplock courts. There's no question but that Congressman Kennedy's intention today was to embarrass the British government. There's been considerable anger amongst many Irish Americans about recent British decisions and actions regarding Northern Ireland. That has been further heightened by the killings in Belfast this morning. It will further manifest itself tomorrow in a statement from the Friends of Ireland in Congress.